begin. Yeah, my name is Andy Smith. I've been working as a change agent since 1993, initially in the UK and more recently in the Middle East and Southeast Asia as well. I've been studying emotional intelligence for the last 15 years, and I'm particularly interested in two areas. One is how the beliefs and assumptions that leaders bring to their work affects their performance. And secondly, how teams can be more productive and effective through harnessing their innate emotional intelligence. So what we're going to cover in the webinar today is really five main points, which are, whoops, there we go. First of all, what is emotional intelligence? Secondly, how emotions affect your team's thinking skills and, of course, your thinking skills as well. Thirdly, understanding the effect that you have on the emotional climate of your team, and I'll explain this term emotional climate when we get into the webinar. Fourthly, 4 ways that you can employ to become a more emotionally intelligent leader. And finally, a simple model for applying emotional intelligence to any issue, problem, or decision that you face. So we have about half an hour for the presentation, and there'll also be some time at the end of the webinar if you have a specific question or situation in mind. Some of you have already sent in some questions which I'll address at the end of the webinar. So first of all, what is emotional intelligence? Let's contrast emotional intelligence, first of all, with the traditional narrower view of intelligence, which focused on what's known as intelligence quotient, or IQ. IQ measures 2 kinds of intelligence, what's known as logical or mathematical intelligence, which is about pattern detection, drawing logical conclusions, and being good with numbers, and linguistic intelligence, which is being good with language. These are the skills that the education system, certainly in the Western world, has traditionally selected for. And in fact, a high IQ score is a good predictor of academic success and good grades at school and university. But it's not such a good predictor of success, however you want to measure success in life or in work. Have you ever worked with somebody who's intellectually very bright, but they may be insecure, or they belittle the people that work for them, or their general mood is irritable? Someone who might be a high performer in themselves, but who's a drag on the performance of their team and their colleagues because other people can't stand working with them. So if you have ever worked with somebody like that, you'll understand that clearly IQ is not all that's needed for working successfully. If we define intelligence very broadly as the ability to learn and to solve problems, some other competencies are also needed. So what are these other forms of intelligence? You may already be familiar with Howard Gardner's idea of multiple intelligences. Howard Gardner is a developmental psychologist who challenged the view that intelligence is a single entity. Instead, he argues that there are multiple intelligences which develop relatively independently of each other. So, as well as the linguistic and the logical mathematical intelligences that we've already dealt with, these include visual and spatial intelligence, such as an artist or an architect might have. Bodily and kinesthetic intelligence, which sports people and dancers have, is about being aware of where your body is in relation to others at any given moment and being able to solve problems with it. So the Manchester United footballer Wayne Rooney, for example, is probably not going to have a high-flying academic career when he retires from football, but there are few people better at solving problems in the fast-moving environment of the football pitch. Musical intelligence is fairly self-explanatory, but the two that really concern us here are interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence. Interpersonal intelligence is about understanding and being able to relate to and influence other people. Intrapersonal intelligence is about being aware of, making sense of, and managing your own emotions. So these last 2 intelligences make up what has been called EQ, which stands for emotional quotient, or emotional intelligence. If we have to define emotional intelligence, this is about the most concise definition that I'm aware of. It's by Daniel Goleman, who published the best-selling book Emotional Intelligence in 1996. Before that, emotional intelligence had been a fairly obscure term in academic psychology, worked on by researchers like John Mayer and Peter Salovey and Reuven Bar-On. So why did the concept of emotional intelligence, which was previously just an academic thing, strike such a chord with the business world? Well, the business relevance of emotional intelligence comes from this simple question: how much of themselves do people bring to work? In many workplaces, people check their passion, their creativity, and their humor at the door every day when they show up. So they're operating on maybe 10 or 20% of their capacity. But the heart is at least as important as the head when it comes to motivating people and connecting with customers. The businesses which succeed in the 21st century will be the ones which harness discretionary effort, which is the stuff that people do at work beyond what they have to do, beyond what's in the letter of their employment contract and their job description, which harness discretionary effort by making it possible for people to bring the whole of their intelligence, emotional as well as intellectual, to work with them. So emotional intelligence then is the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and recognizing feelings in other people, and also for managing emotions effectively in others and in ourselves. Let's have a look at the components of this definition. So you'll see that there's two components which it identifies. One is being awareness, being aware of emotions, and the other one is management, being able to manage those emotions. And each of those can be applied to emotions in yourself and also to being aware of and managing emotions in other people. So that gives us this nice quadrant structure with 4 parts or 4 competencies to emotional intelligence. Self-awareness in the top left is being aware of your own emotions and understanding what gives rise to those emotions. Self-management is being able to manage your own emotions and hence the actions that spring from them effectively. Social awareness is recognizing and understanding emotions in other people. And relationship management is being able to manage and inspire emotions in others. Each of these is highly relevant to leadership, but self-awareness is the key, the cornerstone on which the others rest. If you're not aware of your own emotions, you won't be able to manage them because they'll constantly be taking you by surprise. And social awareness will be difficult because the way we recognize emotions in other people involves partially reproducing them within ourselves, as we'll see. And if you don't have that social awareness and you're sometimes hijacked by your own emotions if your self-management is poor, that will make relationship management very difficult. So you won't be able to handle and inspire emotions in other people. Now let's look at 3 ways in which emotions affect your cognitive capacities, your ability to think and take decisions. First of all, this idea that strong emotions make us stupid. Strong emotional arousal knocks out the brain's prefrontal cortex, which is the pink part on the picture there, which is, as far as we can tell, the part responsible for what's called executive function, which is decision-making, planning, impulse control, especially in social situations, and deciding what's good or bad. So with strong emotions, that part is knocked out altogether. It doesn't matter how intellectually intelligent and rational we normally are. If our emotions get too strong, we stop thinking and we act on instinct and impulse, which can sometimes get us into real trouble or even derail our careers completely. Think about when a few years back when Mike Tyson got annoyed in a boxing match and bit off part of Evander Holyfield's ear, or Zinedine Zidane headbutting Marco Materazzi in the 2006 World Cup final. Or, perhaps closer to home, when perfectly pleasant and intelligent people are out driving and they get road rage. They turn into snarling animals and they can endanger themselves and other drivers. So being able to control strong emotion, and just as importantly to recognize the signs of strong emotion building up so you can control it before it takes you over, are absolutely vital. Secondly, emotions affect decision making for two reasons. Emotions carry information about our own values and desires, what's important to us. The more important something is to us, the stronger we feel about it. They can also carry information about how other people are likely to respond, because other people's emotions resonate within us. So we've already seen how having too much emotion can knock out your decision-making capacities. Too little emotion is as ruinous to decision-making as too much emotion. This is neatly illustrated in a case study by the neurologist Antonio Damasio in his book Descartes' Error. One of his patients, who he calls Elliot, was a high-flying corporate lawyer. Elliot developed a brain tumor which was successfully removed. As a result of the operation, his intellect was unimpaired and all the usual tests of brain function showed up as normal. But there was one problem. He couldn't function at work anymore. He would take, for example, all day to read just one letter. He'd get completely engrossed in it and lose himself. As a result, he soon lost his home, his job, and his marriage. Damasio discovered that brain surgery had damaged the part of his brain that integrates emotion with reason. Intellectually, Elliot could see the consequences of different options, but he no longer had the feelings which told him that one option would be better than another. When Damasio offered him a choice of 2 appointment times, he would take hours to consider the pros and cons of each time, until Damasio had to step in and make the decision for him. We need emotions to make our decisions, because without emotions, nothing matters to us. The third way in which emotions affect our thinking skills is this. Even if you moderate your emotions to the point where the thinking part of your brain is still functioning well, your emotional state affects how well your thinking works. Research by psychologists such as Alice Ison and Barbara Fredrickson show that the positive emotional states help you take on new information more quickly, so you can make faster decisions. And they also help you to see the big picture more easily, so you can make better decisions and can also think more creatively and strategically. Positive emotional states also make you more resilient, so you can recover from setbacks more quickly. Your emotional state also affects judgment, expectations of success, and social interactions. So when a new team comes together, it will meld into an effective unit more quickly when the overall mood, the emotional climate of the team, how it feels to work there, is positive and optimistic. Let's talk a bit about the emotional climate. As we've already mentioned, a positive emotional climate, how it feels to work in that team. If that's positive, if people feel good working there, if they feel engaged working there, it helps each individual team member to think more creatively, think more strategically, and make faster decisions. A positive emotional climate makes it easier to hold on to talent. Generally, people don't leave their company, they leave their immediate boss. So a positive emotional climate will make them more likely to want to stay and reduce turnover. The effect of a positive emotional climate, Daniel Goleman from his studies estimates that it's responsible for about 20 to 30% of performance, but the effect goes beyond the bottom line, beyond finances. In some cases, the emotional climate can be a matter of life or death. There's one study of cardiac care units that I'm aware of where the worst performing unit in the study, where the nurse's mood was described as depressed, and I think hostile as well, had 4 times the patient mortality rate of comparable units. So if you had heart problems, that's not the unit you want to be taken to.